Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Fantasy Sports Review. I'm Phil Hargis. It's good to see everybody again. We had an exciting guest last week with Dustin Ashby of the World Championships of Fantasy Football. It's such an exciting draft. If you haven't signed up for a team in one of the four cities, either here in Atlantic City or one of the other great locations around the country, if you can do it, you can swing it, make sure you do so. It's the ultimate fantasy football competition there is out there. We highly recommend it. Tonight we have a couple of new exciting things going on. We got to get back to drafts. We got to tell you guys who to draft. We've done a lot of mock drafts in preparation for the show. We know where guys are being drafted. We know how to handle the first round, the early rounds, the middle rounds, and the late rounds. We've got the results of a local auction draft that just happened last night. We're going to break that draft down for you. We've got a special guest expert commentator that used to be on our show, but now he's off doing his own thing down in North Carolina with a wonderful podcast that they do down there, and we're bringing him on here in just a minute. But one thing we wanted to introduce to the show this year is, first of all, Rob Castro. Rob, welcome back to the show.
Hey, Phil, good to see you again.
It's
I'm
good to
really
see
excited about breaking into these drafts since I have mine in the coming weeks, so I'm excited. Let's do this.
You can tell that Robbie's been so frustrated with his drafts. His hair is like standing straight up. It looks like he hasn't slept in weeks. But we don't get a lot of sleep at this time of year, Robbie.
I don't really sleep during fantasy drafts. I really don't. There's a lot of things to break down, so let's get right to it.
Yeah, let's start by breaking down. We're going to start with a new news segment. We've got Amanda Walker back with us. She's graduated from college. So one thing we want to do to kind of break up the show and start you off with the latest news and what's going on around the NFL. So we're going to start off with Amanda in the new news center, not the weather center, the news center. So Amanda, go and take us away for the updates in the NFL for this week and all the major injuries. We'll see you guys in just a few minutes.
Hi guys, it's me Amanda, and I'm changing out of my weather mode and into a new role as Fantasy Sports Review Senior NFL Correspondent. Every week I will be bringing you the week's top NFL news stories, mostly injuries, and how they will affect your fantasy players. The preseason continues to move along, and some key players are already starting to miss time due to injuries. And this week, there's no bigger news around NFL than Sidney Rice and his hip surgery. The injury to Sidney Rice here is devastating. Rice went ahead and had the surgery on his hip. He will be out till at least week 8. This is a crippling blow to all of you who have overdrafted the one-year wonder Rice this season. It is just another clear example of how you must stay away from the unproven one-year wonders. This adds to the Vikings' already dilapidated game as Percy Harvin continues to suffer from excruciating migraine headaches. This week will likely affect the Vikings' passing game, but Brett Favre is one of those quarterbacks who can make do with any core of wide receivers that you give him. That is what makes Favre one of the greatest ever. If you ask me, he has never had a superstar receiver to throw to, yet continues to have stellar season after stellar season. Since you won't be drafting Favre as your top quarterback anyway, this should be no big deal since the Fantasy Sports Review guys will set you up with other quality players at that position. Here in Washington, Donovan McNabb's ankle is still bothering him after injuring it during the Ravens game. McNabb is sporting an air cast and will miss the game against the Jets this Friday. McNabb hopes to be ready for the season. Stay tuned to Fantasy Sports Review for more on this developing injury. The guys have been touting McNabb as an injury-prone play at quarterback, and while great value can be achieved drafting him late in your draft, you must have 2 other quarterbacks on your roster if you draft him, so that you can have adequate coverage when McNabb is on the injury list, which he will be. With the recent injuries to Marshawn Lynch and Fred Jackson, rookie C.J. Spiller will carry the load the rest of the preseason and into the start of the season. Spiller, the first round of the pick out of Clemson, will see the majority of carries. The value on drafting a guy like Spiller is outstanding right now. He is not on anyone's radar, and you can snag him in the middle rounds while other guys in your league are busy drafting kickers, defenses, and tight ends. Spiller may not be every down back, but when he's in the game, you will be happy with the numbers he will post, as he will make every touch count. Reports out of Oakland are picking Michael Bush to start in the backfield for the Oakland Raiders. Starter Darren McFadden hurt his hamstring and has been hampered by this injury since last year. In his final 4 games, Bush averages 5 yards per touch. Bush is an amazing talent and, like C.J. Spiller, is a tremendous value in this year's draft. Darren McFadden was a dumb pick when the Raiders made him a few years ago, and he's a dumb pick for you in this year's fantasy draft. So, if you get a chance to grab Michael Bush in the later rounds of the draft, do it, and you could hit it with a home run with him. News out of the Big D has Dez Bryant questionable for the start of the season. Bryant injured his ankle 4 weeks ago, but is progressing very nicely. The first round pick out of the state is still limited, but should be a good fit in the Cowboys passing game. Rookie wide receivers are always a gamble. He is getting drafted higher than he should be getting drafted. Look to other players like Mike Wallace, Michael Crabtree, or Eddie Royal to be your breakout wide receiver of 2010. That's about it for this week's top news stories. I look forward to being with you all this season. From the Fantasy Sports Review News Center, I'm Amanda Walker reporting. Now back to you, boys.
Thanks a lot, Amanda, for that news report. It's weird seeing you in the newsroom and not in the weather center. Nikki just flew back on the red eye from LA. We will have her back in the weather center starting next week. So then we'll have both Amanda and Nikki bring you all the updates you need to know for the weather and the news. What a great way to break up the show. But Robbie, we have the results just in from this draft. We're going to start breaking this down in a minute, but we have an expert that we brought in from Raleigh, North Carolina. He used to be with us here on Fantasy Sports Review. Now he's down there. His name is Dave Stebbins of Hog and the Curtain, the podcast. You might have heard it. But Dave, welcome back to the show, man. How you doing?
Thanks, I appreciate it. That expert moniker might be a little strong, but we'll take it.
Not bad for a guy who's never drafted into anything, is it?
Yeah, right. No, it's exciting to be back on the show. I'm glad you guys, obviously have persevered without me. But no, I'm down in North Carolina enjoying life and doing a podcast. I don't know if anybody up there has heard of it, but it's an exciting time for us. We just posted our website, hogandthecurtain.com. You can check that out. We're also on iTunes and we have a Facebook page, all this other stuff. So Hog and the Curtain Sports Show, check us out.
Okay, and you don't really just specialize in football. I know you're an expert in a lot of sports. You follow them all really closely, just like we do. And during the offseason, we covered poker, we covered World Cup. So you pretty much touch on everything in the world of sports, don't you?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, we're mainly Redskins and Steelers fans, so we focus on football, especially during football season. But, we're sports fans, so we talk about everything.
And it's cool. You have this podcast, and you told me that recently you also had an application developed for the iPhone. Can you tell us real quickly about that, and we'll get started breaking this stuff down?
Yeah, that's some other exciting news for us. We just got our iPhone app approved. You can go on to the iTunes store and check out both the podcasts and now download the iPhone app, and you'll have the podcasts come straight to your phone. That's
very cool. You got to show me how to figure that out for Fantasy Sports Review. But Robbie, Dave, I have the results here that I've sent you both ahead of time. The results of a 10-team auction draft that just happened last night. This actually happened in Huntsville, Alabama, for one of our loyal viewers, Sergio down there. Was in this draft. It was an auction draft. For those of you who don't know, an auction draft is a lot of fun. It's one of my favorite formats of drafting. You get the chance to basically buy the players you want to buy. In this particular case, for this league, the rules are pretty much the same for all positions. For quarterback, it's 6 points for touchdowns, and then your performance yards as well. Running backs, you get 6 points for touchdowns, you get 1 per 10 for rushing yards, and 1 per 10 receiving yards. Pretty standard rules. So in this league, you have a $150 salary cap, and it's a real money salary cap. So every dollar you spend is an actual dollar out of your pocket. Now, when you draft these, the strategy for me is if you're going to bring money to the table and you're going to try to win a championship, you should spend every single dollar, regardless, in your auction. There's always better players out there. Why would you want to try to save $5 or $10 in your pocket when you're trying to win $1,000 or more in one of these league championships? As you'll see when we get to this draft, not all the players spent all their money. In fact, most of them didn't. So they saved real money on draft day, but do they really save money down the road when they're going to try to win their league championships? That's what we're going to find out. We removed the names of these teams to protect the innocent. And you guys, let's start off with just Team 1 to keep it simple, and we'll go right through the 10 teams, and we'll talk about what we see here, what are the strengths of these teams, what are the weaknesses, what tendencies do we see in this draft, and who maybe some of these top teams in this league will be. It should be a lot of fun. Robbie or Dave, let's start with Team 1. Robbie, what do you see here in Team 1? You got Phillip Rivers, Adrian Peterson. Those are a couple of strong people on your team.
Well, I like this team a lot. You look at the running back position particularly. You see Adrian Peterson, you see LaShawn McCoy, you see Matt Forte, and you also see Steven Jackson. All 4 of those running backs are pretty solid, I would think. You get great value out of these guys. Yes, this guy spent over, upwards to $100 on these running backs, but you know what? I think it's going to pay off towards the end because you might see a guy like Matt Forte go down with an injury. You just sub in Steven Jackson. He's got a rookie quarterback at the helm in St. Louis. So I think Steven Jackson right there, and he also catches a lot of passes out of the backfield. That's going to help Sam Bradford big time, especially because he's a first-year quarterback.
Yeah, exactly. And Dave, I know you've been a fan of Vernon Davis before in the past. And Graham Gano is a Redskin. I mean, do you see anybody else on this team that you like, or maybe he overpaid for, or maybe a weakness on this team?
Well, I mean, he's a local boy. He's from Maryland, so yeah, we've seen him grow up for years now. He's he's gone through his little spats with Singletary, and he's grown up into a mighty fine tight end now. So he's a stud. I got to be honest. I don't know if I've been playing in 12-team leagues so long that this team looks just absolutely stacked to me.
I think so too. I looked at this team, and it was the first team I looked at, and I'm like, Team 1, this team can easily win it all. I don't know if he drafted first or what, but I think that this guy definitely has it going on, and it's a guy who's got a lot of depth on his team, and that's really huge because I know that most fantasy guys would attest to this, is that depth does win championships. It's not about the top guys all the time, because you have bye weeks that play. It's a very pertinent part in your draft strategy, as we've discussed, Phil. A lot
Looks
of
like a Pro Bowl team.
It's big, so.
Yeah, Dave. So you're right. You're playing in the 12-team leagues. In 10-team leagues, you have to have a stacked team in order to win the championships. It looks like Team 1 has done a very good job here. His receivers, we'll see. He's got Johnny Knox, I think a potential breakout guy. Brandon Marshall, we're not sure about Deshaun Jackson. He's got some potential one-year wonder guys here on this team that I'd be a little concerned with. Maybe just a little bit with Vernon Davis, but he'll probably be fine. Dave, let's move on to Team 2. I mean, here you go. I know you advocate the quarterbacks. Here you go again, Peyton Manning to start off this team. So you're off to a good start with this team. How's the rest of the team shaping up to you?
Peyton Manning, obviously very strong. Roethlisberger comes back in week 5 or whatever it is, so he'll be a strong another option there. The big name on that list to me is Ryan Matthews. Norv Turner, everywhere he's gone, has made running backs into studs, and this kid was the national the leading rusher in the nation last year in college. He averaged more yards than anybody else per game, and I think he's going to have a huge rookie season.
I definitely agree with you on that too, Dave. This guy does take a lot of risk picks, as I like to say. He's got Arian Foster, who wasn't even slated to be the number 3 running back last season. Steve Slayton has fumbleitis. Arian Foster gets the majority of the carries towards the latter part of the season. And now we see Ben Tate, who they drafted out of Auburn in the 3rd round. He was going to be their starting running back. He goes down to injury. Now we don't know what Arian Foster is going to do with this Matt Schaub-led passing-happy team.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of great things about Arian Foster. I think if this team is going to struggle anywhere, it's wide receiver. Mike Wallace is a guy that I know we like as a potential breakout. He was pretty good last year.
He caught 40 balls for 7 touches, but the majority of his touchdowns were those deep passes. And like you just said, Dave, Ben Roethlisberger is going to be out till week 6. Who's going to be throwing the long ball? It's certainly not going to be Byron Leftwich. It's certainly not going to be Dennis Dixon. So I really don't see Mike Wallace really doing much. I know he might give you a few touchdowns inside the 20, but does he break one? I mean, who's throwing him the football in the Steel Town,
Yeah, that's a great point.
I think my biggest question about this team is, why would you have $61 left out of $100?
It's mind-boggling to me, Dave. I mean, I'll get to it in a minute. I don't even think I have it with me, but I put together a team that I would have assembled using the money that was left. I mean, the team that you could have fielded was unbelievable if you had spent all $200 of your budget here. The one thing that is interesting here is he did draft Josh Cribbs. One thing I failed to mention under the scoring system is that you do get the points for return yardage. So Josh Cribbs is very valuable in this system. So as a 3rd receiver, I mean, I think this team is just going to be frustrated playing his receivers, and obviously he's going to try to land some talent on the waiver wire as soon as that opens up. But yeah, you're right, Dave. And there's one more thing to this league too, is that each team had a chance to keep, I think it was 3 players. So you don't really know who those guys are. So. But again, $61 sitting out there. I mean, there's a lot of places where you can upgrade receivers. You could probably have Moss, Andre Johnson, maybe a couple of those guys in there for your $61. I don't know why you'd want to take that chance and have a guy like Cribbs and Mike Wallace.
And the other thing that stands out to me anyway on this team is especially with Roethlisberger out for the first 4 weeks, and the Steelers have been talking all offseason about how they're going to go back to pounding the ball. Getting Rashard Mendenhall for 3 is a huge, that's a great pick for that low price.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no doubt about it. Rashard Mendenhall is certainly a guy who's in many fantasy draft boards, top 10. So, great point there. D'Angelo Williams, I mean, he's due for sort of a bounce-back season as well. I mean, this guy has as good of a running back stable as you could possibly ask for. I mean, I would try to trade a guy. I'm not sold on Javid Best. I know a lot of people are. I'm not sold on him, but he certainly has some trade bait there should he want to make a play for a wide receiver.